Williamsport, Maryland is located along what was once a heavily traveled Indian trail. The area was known as Conococheague, meaning a long way, by the various tribes who occupied it. Prior to official exploration in the late 1600s, Williamsport was known mainly to fur traders and American Indian tribes. The town that is now Williamsport is the site of Washington County, Maryland's first settlement. Charles Friend, credited with being Washington County's first permanent resident, was the first to settle the area at the mouth of the Conococheague Creek, which he christened Sweet's Delight in 1732. Friend's settlement soon became a strategic outpost and was even used as an ammunition base by British General Braddock during the French and Indian War. The site was also used as a trading post as thousands of pioneers passed through the area on the Great Wagon Road while headed west in the 1770s. It is reported that Thomas Cressup built the spring house at the Springfield Farm and later leased it to Joseph and Prudence Williams, the parents of Otho Holland Williams, who would become Williamsport's town founder in 1750. In 1775, Otho Holland Williams joined the Continental Army in Boston. He returned to Williamsport in 1787 to purchase his childhood home, and then proceeded to lay plans for the town of Williamsport on land which he had acquired from Jacob Friend. The town's original layout consisted of 35 lots, which were leased by residents who paid Williams in wheat every May. The town quickly grew to be the second largest in Washington County and was incorporated in 1823. When Williams discovered that George Washington was considering a location on the banks of the Potomac River as the site for the capital of the newly formed United States, Williams petitioned Washington to consider Williamsport as the capital city. George Washington visited the town in 1790. While there, Washington marked the four corners of what would be Federal Square should Williamsport be chosen as the location of the capital, with rectangular stones marked with an X. One of these stones can still be seen today, just a few yards from Cushwa Basin. Unfortunately, the roughness and narrowness of the Potomac River at Williamsport and the surrounding area made the river unnavigable for large ships, and the decision was made to locate the capital further downriver. While Washington did not find Williamsport a suitable location for the nation's capital, he did see promise in the town as a possible site for a canal that would run west to meet the Ohio River. This idea would later become the C&O Canal. When the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal arrived in Williamsport in 1834, it allowed local industry to flourish, and Williamsport quickly became the commercial center of Washington County. During its operation, Cushwa Warehouse was one of the canal's busiest wharfs. Today, Williamsport has the most canal features of any town located along the nearly 185-mile stretch. In addition to the Cushwa Basin, the park includes one of the few remaining Bowman Truss bridges in the United States, a railroad lift bridge, Lock 44 and accompanying lock house, and the Conococheague Creek Aqueduct. The structure has suffered many abuses and destructions over the years. In 1862, it was partially destroyed by Union troops in an attempt to prevent General Lee and his army from escaping through Williamsport on the retreats from the battles of Gettysburg and Antietam. It was destroyed again when the outer wall collapsed on April 9, 1920, after being struck by a canal boat. Both the wall and the crossing boat were dumped into the creek below. Work crews were quickly dispatched to construct a wooden replacement wall to allow continued use of the aqueduct. The fallen barge remained in the creek until 1936, when it was washed away by a flood. 1861 was the start of the Civil War in America. General Abner Doubleday was sent to Williamsport with instructions to build a battery overlooking the C&O Canal and the Potomac River at the edge of the Riverview Cemetery in Williamsport. 3 siege cannons were mounted facing Virginia in order to protect the town from Confederate invasion. It was later determined that the Potomac's sharp bend at this point provided an obstructed view and was not the ideal location for a battery, and was quickly abandoned. On July 6, 1863, a 17-mile stretch of wagons carrying 4,000 wounded Confederate soldiers passed through Williamsport on a retreat from the Battle of Gettysburg. The troops became trapped between the rain-swollen Potomac River and the fast-approaching Union Army. Without infantrymen for defense, John D. Bowdoin organized approximately 700 wagoners into a makeshift infantry company. This defense, which became known as Wagoners' Fight, prevented the capture of 4,000 wounded Confederate soldiers, as well as most of General Lee's supplies and horses. General Lee also passed through Williamsport on his retreat from Gettysburg. The flooded waters of the Potomac made it impossible for him and his troops to escape the pursuing Union army by crossing the river. Lee and his men were trapped in Williamsport for 10 days while waiting for the Potomac River's waters to recede. On July 16, 1863, the river's water level had fallen enough to allow passage at falling waters. Prior to the construction of a bridge spanning the Potomac in 1909, Watkins Ferry stretched from Williamsport, Maryland to Watkins Landing, Virginia, now West Virginia. This ferry was utilized by George Washington and General Braddock, as well as Union forces led by Abner Doubleday during the Civil War. Construction on a bridge began in 1908. A collapse of the bridge on December 16 killed 8 workmen and halted further construction until spring of 1909. The bridge was dedicated on August 10, 1909, and opened as a toll road which charged 25 cents per horse-drawn wagon. It continued to operate as a toll bridge until 1958, 4 years after being acquired by the state of Maryland. The Hagerstown and Frederick Railroad Company constructed a trolley line from Williamsport to Hagerstown in 1896. The trolley house in the Cushwa Basin provided power to this line until 1898. The trolley remained in operation from 1896 until August 1947, when buses took over the route. When thinking of amusement parks in Washington County, Penn Mar is most likely the first one that comes to mind. However, from 1924 to 1936, Conomac may have been a name that you would recognize. Conomac Park occupied 22 acres of land on the eastern edge of the Conocajig Creek in Williamsport. Like Penn Mar, Conomac offered amusement rides, including a carousel and miniature train, a dance hall, and a baseball field, which was home to both Williamsport High School Wildcats and Williamsport Little League. While Conomac lacked the magnificent mountain views of Penn Mar, it made up for lack of scenery by providing patrons with water for swimming and boating. Despite Conomac's brief existence, it became very popular with town residents and tourists alike. The park offered a summer getaway for thousands of visitors each year, and later offered a diversion from the hardships brought about by the Great Depression. Unfortunately, the devastating flood of 1936 destroyed much of the waterfront park and forced its closure. Today, the Williamsport Library stands as a memorial to Williamsport High School students who were killed in Rockville, Maryland in 1935. On April 11, 1935, a class of approximately 30 students and their teacher were returning home from a science fair in College Park, Maryland. 14 of the students were killed when a train struck the bus as it drove over a railroad crossing. The accident, known as the Rockville tragedy, was believed to be the worst school bus accident in Maryland history. The library was constructed in 1936 to honor the memory of the students who had died in the crash. The C&O Canal was instrumental in the establishment and success of many of Williamsport's industries. However, even after the canal's closure in 1924, many businesses remained successful. Cushwa Brick is one such example. In 1897, Victor Cushwa, owner of the Cushwa Coal Yard on the C&O Canal, purchased Conocajig Brick and Earthenware Company in order to supplement his income. Cushwa renamed his new business acquisition Cushwa & Sons Brick. The company continues to operate today under the name Redland Brick. The G.A. Miller Lumber Company began operation in 1887. Floods forced the relocation of the lumber yard twice, first in 1889 and then again in 1936. With each flood, the business moved to higher ground before settling at its current location on West Potomac Street. In 1897, Garden State Tanning constructed a factory across the Conocajig Creek from Williamsport. The Byron Tannery produced leather for a variety of applications, including luggage, footwear, furniture, and later automobiles. At one point, the tannery was one of the largest employers in Washington County. It continued to employ many people until its closure in 2005. The recently closed Potomac Edison plant was constructed in 1823 along the banks of the Potomac River. It employed many of the town's residents until its closure in 2012. Throughout Williamsport's history, the town's main streets have been full of small, often family-run businesses. While the businesses that occupy Williamsport's town center have changed over the years, visitors today get a glimpse into Williamsport's historic past. Many of the original buildings still line the streets, the resident businesses offering a unique blend of services from restaurant to retail. For more information, please visit williamsportmd.gov. Special thanks to the Williamsport Town Museum.